Iran's nuclear program, especially its uranium enrichment, is deeply concerning as it has no civilian needs. Leaders of the world's biggest economies discussed Iran's nuclear program at the G20 summit. US President Joe Biden, outgoing German Chancellor Angela Merkel, French President Emmanuel Macron and UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson met in Rome to discuss the future course of action. White House issued a joint statement after the meeting. The leaders identified Iran's escalating nuclear program as a threat to international security. In strong words, the leaders said they are determined to ensure Iran can never develop or even acquire a nuclear weapon. The statement also mentions Iran's nuclear provocation ever since negotiations were stalled. It noted that Iran's uranium enrichment are only important to produce nuclear weapons and are not for any civilian needs, adding that such provocations will put a return to the 2015 nuclear accord in danger. The United States has insisted that Iran should fully comply to the accord for the sanctions to be lifted. The joint statement said a return to the accord would result in higher regional participation. It also affirmed shared determination to address broader security concerns raised by Iran's action in the region. Involvement of diplomatic efforts in Gulf were also welcomed in the statement. Iran was also criticized for causing obstacles for the IAEA's work. Last week, the International Atomic Energy Agency said that Iran's enrichment at the Natanz plant was at 60% when the threshold is around 20%. The countries expressed willingness to work with Russian Federation, Republic of China and the European Union to resolve the critical issue.
Allerdings die Zeit vergeht und die Anreicherungen werden im Iran fortgesetzt. Das beunruhigt uns sehr und deshalb war es Zeit, darüber zu sprechen, was man tun kann, damit die Bewaffnung des Iran mit Nuklearwaffen nicht stattfindet.
The statement further says the US sanctions on Iran will be lifted only if Iran changes course. The lifting of sanctions is something Iran is desperate for. The leaders urged Iran President Ibrahim Raisi to take the chance and make efforts in good faith towards negotiations. The Islamic Republic will be looking to avoid further economic slowdown. Patsy Widakuswara, thank you for staying on. My final question to you, help us understand what are some of the implications to the US policy when it comes to Iran's evolving nuclear program?
Well, there's a lot of implications to the entire world, I would say, because this is a nuclear threat by an adversary of the U.S. This is another flashpoint that needs to be managed by the Biden administration. And that's exactly what he did yesterday when he met with his European partners, Germany, France, and also the UK, in essentially trying to get them together to be on one page on the issue of Iran. And it does seem like they were able to get to that one page. You saw just now, you played a clip of Chancellor Angela Merkel coming out and saying that they support President Biden's intention to return to the JCPOA, providing that Iran does the same. A couple of interesting notes that I'd like to underline coming out of that meeting is that even though the Gulf states, the roles of the Gulf states in managing tensions in the region was welcomed and mentioned, the role of Israel or the concerns of Israel was not mentioned in the readout. So that's a question mark. Why is it that Israel was left out of the readout? That's something that I haven't been able to get clarification on from anyone in the White House, but it could be another one of those strategic ambiguity kind of policy in terms of leaving it, gray so that the Iranians may guess whether or not the U.S. may condone the so-called Plan B that Israel has been asking for, which is military option if talks does not work. Now, it does seem like everybody will return to talks. One date that we've been hearing a lot is the end of November. Obviously, this will depend a lot in terms of how the sides will come into the negotiations. Iran obviously is saying that we need at least some sanctions relief, but we will come to negotiation in the hopes of that. And they're also criticizing the fact that the U.S. just launched a fresh round of sanctions just yesterday, right before going into this negotiation with the partners. But bottom line is both sides, whether it's Iran or the U.S., cannot leave this, issue unresolved forever. It needs to be solved, and everybody is looking forward to having at least some sort of temporary resolution in terms of managing Iran's nuclear weapons to not become closer towards weaponization.
Patsy Widakuswara, live from Rome, Italy. Thank you very much for talking to us.